Hello and welcome to Before the Storm. This is our last episode. This is Town Hall Theater's companion to our fundraising production of FantasticLand. My name is Briel Pomerantz, and I play Miranda Tots in FantasticLand. But for tonight, I'm your moderator and host. I am so pleased to be part of this production, and I'm even more pleased that tonight joining me on Before the Storm are Alysia Homminga, our editor and director extraordinaire, and she's joining me for the second time. So any fun questions for Allie, feel free to put those in the chat. And we also have two actors with us tonight, David Richardson, who plays Emmett Kelly, and Justin Hanks, who plays Travis Barnes. So welcome, lovely humans. Let's get to some questions. So first, I'm going to start with you, Allie. You were the editor, as I mentioned, as well as the director on this project. Can you tell us a little bit about what that process was like?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I interviewed to be the director for FantasticLand, I did pitch the idea of presenting it as more of a theatrical miniseries rather than a play or like something that people would watch live and sit down for. Especially Michelle Iannero really loved that idea, and everyone in the production team quickly supported that. And as I was hired on. And so when it came time to actually edit everything together, it was a very large undertaking, 10 episodes. Each episode is between 30 minutes to an hour. And the only other thing, I had like a fair amount of editing experience prior to this. I use Adobe Premiere editing, and but prior to this, the longest thing I had edited was like a 12-minute sketch for my comedy team in college. So going from that to 6+ hours of content, it was a lot, but it was very fun because I got to learn a lot of things. And that's just the kind of thing that I find fun is learning and editing and, kind of working to make what I want in my head actually come out on the video and have it be successful. So I learned a lot about how to adjust color palettes, how to adjust sound, how to make transitions look good, a whole lot of things. So I think that was really beneficial for me in a lot of ways. So yeah.
Great. And did the fact that you knew you were going to be editing as well, did that shift how you directed or how you worked with the actors?
Yes, actually. So since I knew I was going to be editing it together as a theatrical miniseries of sorts, I did take the opportunity to work individually with the actors instead of working as a whole, because we didn't have we didn't have a lot of time constraints. I did, I was like, let's make it 20 minutes or less for all the monologues if we can. That was kind of a goal, to make all the episodes under an hour, or 45 minutes to an hour was the ideal range for me and the production team. So I did, since it was also all monologues, for the most part, I did work with actors individually, which was, I think it was a good experience for the actors. I've heard a lot of great things about the way that, but I would love to hear from you all about what you thought about that. But I really wanted to focus on perspective, and how one person's perspective was vastly different from another person's perspective based on their relationship to other people in the park, or just their relationship to the park itself. We are in the unique situation right now, actually, that none of your characters are actually in the park. So also all of you, I think I had conversations with all of you, or most of you, about what it was like for you to interact with the events in the park while not actually experiencing those events. So it's Absolutely. I really wanted to focus on perspective, and I had the opportunity to do that because I was going to be editing it and the final product. So none of the actors, much to the actors' dismay, didn't have to really work with each other, even though everyone wanted to work with each other so badly. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, I think we enjoyed the one-on-one experience, and Justin and David, you can chime in as well. But yeah, there was sort of that like sense of unity that you get in a theater production that like was not there, and sort of had to be like, okay, well, I guess I'm doing this on my own, but also help create that narrative that you're talking about from all these perspectives, because we're not shaded by anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your collaboration with our sound designer who was on last week, Diana Carey, or any other like person on the artistic team that helps you in the editing process?
Yeah, I actually worked a lot with Diana. We had a lot of meetings, collaborating together to come up with like a really beautiful sound design that she made, which had a lot of unifying themes and yet was unique and had certain like, tones and different motifs. For like the warthogs, for example, has a motif, and like every time they talk about the warthogs, we use the warthogs motif. And it was also very fun to do that kind of thing, because it was also, we had this big document where she was like listing all of the sound cues, and I got to like put them in and make sure they fit right. And it was just it just made the production very well-rounded to have that kind of sound backtrack going on. We also worked with two different graphic designers. One graphic designer worked primarily, only on the things that were featured in like marketing materials, although I did use some things like in the actual production. And then a graphic designer that worked on the materials for the show itself. And that was also really like just amazing, because I could say like, in my head, I want it to look like this. And then I would get like a proof the next day or like the next week, and it would look like very close to what I wanted. And so that was very exciting to see, and just have that kind of collaborative experience. Because I recently graduated from college. I graduated from college in 2020. And in college, especially at my college, because we're very focused on like independent creation. Well, not independent. We work as a team, but it's like sometimes that team is 4 people. So you have to do a lot of things. You have to design the light. You have to be your own stage manager. Also working with Michelle Hazelton she was the best person to work with because it was just so nice to have somebody like always there for me and supporting me throughout the entire process. So I really appreciate her. But it was just really kind of a new experience to be like, there is someone else to do this, and it's not my responsibility. I can focus on working with actors and editing and like doing the things I love. And someone else gets to do what they love and help the production. So, yeah.
Great. So what was the most exciting thing about the process, and what was most challenging?
So the most exciting thing, I think, honestly, was just like the hype behind it. Like when people were talking about how excited they were to like see the production, and especially when Kyle had me, Michelle, and Mike Bakoven on the podcast, on his This Is Rad podcast. It was just so cool to then see like the Instagram get a bunch of new followers, and it's like, wow, there is like a big following out there that loves this novel already and is excited to see it. So I was just thrilled that something that I had a hand in was going to make a difference for other people, and like they would get to see like one of their favorite books brought to life. And so that's the most exciting thing for me. And I guess editing would be the most challenging. It was the most challenging and yet very fun at the same time, as I mentioned. But I do believe because there was so much for me to learn, that also ended up being a challenge sometimes.
Yeah.
It was just a lot to do, but I think it turned out good. So
right.
Yeah.
So a learning experience, but definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
Great. And then do you have any projects coming up or ways for people to follow your work?
Yes, I actually, this week, I got cast in 2 different productions at 2 different theaters. So I'm going to be a part of the Plays for the Planet Festival at Imaginarium Theater Company based in New York City. And so they're doing a fundraiser for I'm sorry, I forgot what the organization is, but it's an environmental justice organization. And I'm part of one of those plays. And they're just a really amazing theater company that does a lot of these kind of fundraisers. Last month, they did a Women's Month fundraiser and did a big fundraising event for the Malala Fund, so which is girls' education. And so that's very exciting. And I also got cast in a whole season of shows that are upcoming for a company called Classics on the Rocks. So the next show that I'm going to be a part of is their Shakes Day Festival, which is a celebration of Shakespeare's work. And that's going to be the weekend of April 23rd.
Is that in person or virtual?
It is virtual. Both productions will be virtual.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And then people can follow. Do you have a website?
Oh, yes. My website is Alysia, which is Alysia, Homminga, Homminga. Got a long name. .wordpress.com, which is where you can see all of my acting work, my directing work, lots of different things on there. And then the other social media that I'm fairly active on is Instagram. You can follow me at AlyHomm, ALYHOMM 29.
Great. Great. Thanks, Ally. All right. Now I'm going to turn our focus to our 2 actors here. So a question for both of you. How did you find out about this project and what drew you to it? You want to start with you, David?
Sure. So I found out about the project because I knew Michelle Ionero as you did, Briel. We were in production of The Full Monty when the whole world changed last March. And
yes, I mean, I've known Michelle for like 8 years, but yes, that production. Oh yeah, we met in 2012.
Oh wow. So I was on Michelle's mailing list or her email list when she put out the word about the auditions for this. So that was how I found out about it, and it was kind of totally outside my comfort zone because I really hadn't successfully done a video audition submission. So, and then as far as what drew me to it was, oh my God, just the opportunity to get to do something coming off of the last thing we did was a Full Monty. So just the audition, the opportunity to be involved in something after all this time. You know, especially, I don't know about anybody else, but there was some time during the shutdown when I thought, oh my God, was that the last show I'm ever going to do? So this was just like a gift from the universe to get to do this.
Yeah. And how about you, Justin?
And then, of course,
sorry, Gary.
No, I was just going to say getting to work with Town Hall too, because of course I know Town Hall. So that's a gigantic plus.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah. For me, I don't know any of you, or I didn't know any of you. I wasn't familiar with Town Hall either. I was scrolling through casting calls on backstage.com, and I saw the listing for this, and I read the plot synopsis, and I was like, wow, this is insane. I've got to be a part of this. I'm a huge theme park fan, so for me, all of the references in the book and the adaptation to things that sound like they would be in a Disney park but are just slightly different, I cracked up. I think that's the most fun part of this for me. So eking out this entire production.
Wonderful.
Sounds like Justin might beat us at the trivia later.
We'll see.
He loves theme parks. Yeah. Well, we're so glad to have you. You're I think one of the few that found this not connected, found us on Backstage. So Lisa Graham Parson also found us on Backstage. So, it's fun to have people from all over the country be part of this production. All right. So a few more questions for you, David, and then I'll hop to you, Justin. So, David, your character is unique that he doesn't have direct involvement with the events of FantasticLand, and you sort of come to it once they're back and they're in the real world. Can you tell us about sort of your character and how that shades his piece?
So I think for Emmett, you know, I have to say that the very first thing that I noticed about Emmett when I was cast, when I got the sides, Emmett is named for a clown. He's named after Emmett Kelly, who was a very famous clown. And I don't know, that just to me, that had to say something about who he was. I might not be exactly sure what it says, but somehow that just informed me something about him, because I thought that cannot be accidental. But as far as, so he comes to this, it's all over, and he's seeing it in the aftermath, and he's coming to it with his perspective of so I think he's looking at it as a lawyer. He's looking at it from the outside, and so he's not really, I don't believe that, especially as he starts, he's not really noticing, you know, all the horrific elements, all the blood doesn't bother him, all of those things, they're not, he's really looking at it, I think, from the outside and trying to figure out how to strategize it, because that's how he views everything.
Right, that's a good point.
Yeah, how I think that's how he views kind of most everything in his life. What's the strategy about this? So, you know, he's not bothered by the fact that somebody had their hands sliced off, because this is what he's seen his whole career. So I think that's how he approaches it. That's he's not horrified by it in the beginning anyway.
But you feel like through your piece, he shifts his relationship to that?
I think that as he goes through this, it kind of tests who he is. It tests how he approaches things. I think it brings him up against himself and who he truly is, and what his values are and what's important. Because he definitely, I mean, I don't want to give away too much, but I don't think that,
of course,
because we haven't seen the episode yet, but he's not a crusader for truth and justice. That's just not a part of who he is. That's not a part of who he is. That's not a part of how he's been. And I think he comes up against that. He reaches his limits, and I think this is a life-changing experience for Emmett. Yeah.
Great. So I know for your character, you actually did some accent work. Can you tell us about that choice and sort of your process in approaching that?
So, you know, what I really loved about Emmett, and this is not me. This is not me. This is how Mike wrote Emmett, and it's how Michelle adapted Emmett. When I read the book before the audition, because Town Hall was nice enough to send me a PDF copy, and so I read that like as fast as I've ever read anything in my life. But Emmett was so complete in the way Mike wrote him and in the way Michelle adapted him. His whole life was there in those 4 pages to me. And I felt like I didn't have to decide who Emmett was. Emmett told me who he was. And I felt like, as far as an accent, I didn't feel like, oh, I want to play Emmett with an accent. I felt like Mike wrote him with an accent. I felt like it was it was in the text. It was in the way you read it, and so it would have been shorting him. I just couldn't see any other way to make him be. That's, you know, that's just part of who he is. He's a Florida boy born and raised, and you know, it's a piece of his identity. And although I think that, particularly as someone having gone to law school, he could have lost that, but I think it was too big of a piece of his identity to lose that. So anyway, I'm going on and on and on about that, but the bottom line about that is I don't feel like that was a choice. I felt like that's who he told me he was.
Was it challenging to do the accent, or is it something you feel like you are pretty confident in?
No, it was it was a little bit challenging just in the first time I got together with Allie. I mean, I didn't know if that was okay or not, so I was a little timid about it. Plus, also, I'm not schooled and studied in doing accents, and so Allie was just instrumental in helping him have an accent, because we don't want him to sound like, you know, a backwoods hillbilly, because that's not who he is either. So
Right.
in bringing it out but holding it back. So I felt like Allie was instrumental in doing that. And so no, it's not a thing that I've done a ton of. But it was fun to get to play with it and experiment and do it.
Yeah. I'm someone who I love accent work, so I think it's like, that's why I was like, want to ask you about it, because I think it's fascinating. Everyone's different approach. Yeah. So is there any way that you relate or have something in common with your character, or ways that you're really different?
Let's see. I wasn't expecting that question. I don't know. Are there ways that...
Is there any part of your character that you relate to, that you're like, oh, I see myself in that character? Or you're like, no, I'm completely different, and
I think we're both a lot alike. We're a lot alike, I think, in that we're analytical. I think in the way that we look at it and kind of analyze it. He's much more studied in how he does it. I'm very haphazard. But I think I tend to overthink things, and he thinks things through. So I think also I would have to say that as a person, I mean, I was going to say we're about the same age, but of course we're about the same age, because we're the same person in this production anyway. But so I would say, I think that both of us have experienced a certain level of privilege in our life just because of who we are and the time we grew up. And I think, you know, we get, I mean, that's a very current thing here at the moment. And so, you know, I think I've been keenly aware of the privilege that I grew up with, not all of it, not to all of it, I'm sure, but so I was aware of how much privilege he had, and also how much privilege he used, because Emmett had definitely used his privilege in his life to get to where he is. I don't know if that answered the question or if I just went off on a total tangent. So sorry.
No, it's great. Anything you share is great. Is there any upcoming projects for you, or ways people can follow your work?
Oh, you know, I'm a terrible business person and all of that, so I don't have a website. And, you know, now that we're hopefully beginning to come out of this, I'm just looking for the next thing to do. So, you know, here we are and we're on screen, and I feel like I should like flash my number or my email address or something and say, all right, somebody out there needs somebody like me. Here I am. I'm available. I'm open. So let's just put that seed. We'll just put that seed out there in the universe that
Great. David is available.
Right.
All right. Thanks so much, David. All right. Now to my friend Justin, my new friend Justin, because we've never actually met. But can you tell us a little bit about Travis Barnes, who sort of also gets to witness FantasticLand firsthand in the aftermath of everything, and sort of about him and your approach to playing him?
Oh boy. Okay. Travis. There's a lot to say about Travis. But so he was a member of the Florida National Guard. He was there during the rescue effort. So he went in and, saw a lot of the atrocities that happened within the park. And I think what made his character a little bit more interesting, and why he was probably chosen for an interview versus other rescue members, was that he had a body camera on him. It wasn't even his. He just, ended up with this, took it from someone else, started filming, all these terrible things, all the dead bodies, all the awful stuff. And once the mission was over, he took all that footage and he sold it to the news for a bunch of money. So he has a lot of enemies. A lot of people don't care for him. and that comes out a lot in his demeanor.
They saw a way to capitalize on the situation.
Yeah,
that's pretty smart. Do you feel like you have anything in common or ways that you relate to your character, or do you feel like not at all?
Well, yeah. Oh, okay. There's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm going to go back a little bit and kind of like talk a little bit about, I guess, like the approach I took. So the one thing when I first read through the character that I thought was most interesting was, and this kind of relates to something David said, was just kind of how desensitized he was to everything that was going on. Just talking very casually about all these very disturbing things that happened. And no, this is not what I relate to. You know, and it just kind of like made me think a lot about, you know, his mental health. Because, you know, a lot of this adaptation in the original book is focusing on, you know, what the kids had to go through. But, you know, are we taking a step back and thinking about, you know, what, you know, all the first responders and everything had to go through? So very interesting dynamic. And I'm going to get a little political here. But this, our first rehearsal was shortly after the Capitol riots. And I was, you know, I just seen something in the news about, you know, all these people being surprised, like so-and-so, you know, is my friend. I, you know, go to church with them. And what were they doing there at the Capitol building? Like, you know, what a shock. And I totally saw Travis as like the kind of person who, you know, just seemingly has his life together and, you know, everything's great. And then, you know, he's motivated to go, you know, be super violent and, you know, you see a completely different side of him. So that was like totally in my head the entire time with the character. And shout out to Allie, because I think we took this character in a very different way. I ended up going back and listening to the audiobook, and we did a very different take on this character, but I love it. And a lot of it was Allie just, you know, asking me these like very, like at the time I thought like very weird questions, like why would I need to know, you know, this motivation, or, you know, like, why did we spend like 15, 20 minutes talking about my daughter? It's like a one line, but, you know, all this stuff totally went back and transformed it. I think every time I did a rehearsal, the entire monologue was completely different. We just kept finding new things, like, and I really loved working with Allie and that approach. And the other thing is she kept saying that my character was kind of funny. And at the time, I'm like, this character is not funny. Like he's talking about such, you know, terrible things. Like, why would anyone find this funny? And then I went and I uploaded my video, like when I was done, and I started like peeking at some of the other people's performances. And, you know, I watched some of the other ones, and it's, you know, these people are just really sad, these really heartbreaking scenes. And then you cut to me, and it's like a 5-minute monologue about turds. So I'm like, okay, I see what the humor is now. I get it.
Context.
As for, I guess, you know, what similarities I have, I feel very different from the character. I certainly wouldn't show up to an interview in a tank top. Or I think he's also very toxically masculine, kind of makes fun of like the girly part of the theme park, stuff like that. I wouldn't do any of that. And a lot of his monologue is also him just blaming everybody except for himself. And I don't relate to that either. But something that I did kind of connect to was the way he was kind of downplaying things and kind of trying to seek approval. Like he knows everybody is upset with him for what he did, and that he profited off of, you know, the blood of these kids. And, you know, it makes me think a lot of, like, I'm getting political again, like cancel culture. And, you know, like, you know, somewhat like, you know, like whenever someone, you know, does something stupid in the news and, you know, the whole world's judging them, trying to end their lives or whatever, you know, even though a lot of times they do kind of deserve it, they did kind of cross a line and they don't seem apologetic about it. You know, sometimes I like have a little empathy for them, because I'm like, if like everybody makes mistakes, but, you know, I have the luxury of making my mistakes, at home in front of, just a few people, and I learn from them. And some of these people make their mistake in front of the entire world, and there's no coming back from it. And so I felt that a lot with Travis. Like, he's never going to get really an opportunity to apologize and learn that what he did was wrong, because he's just getting hit anytime he turns on TV or goes on social media. He's getting hit with insults and attacks, and no one wants to give him a second chance. So it's kind of him as a villain, and so I kind of felt bad for him in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think also, like, especially for those that are on the outside of the events FantasticLand, a lot of common theme is shifting the blame. I know that's something that my character does too. It's I did the best that I could given the circumstances. It wasn't my fault. I made a call, right? And so that's sort of, it's mine is before we see all the things, and yours is sort of in the aftermath of everything. But it's similar. Is that, like, we justify our actions, right? And there's motivation behind it, whether it's societally, like, okay or not.
Yep.
Yeah. Is there anything you have upcoming projects or working on now, or ways for people to follow your work?
Sure. So I recently joined a vaudeville troupe, and yeah, we had our first show like a week ago. We have them every month. The group is Queen City Vaudevillians. You can come listen to me sing. The shows are virtual, at least for now. And then I'm also in a production of Little Shop. I'm playing the dentist, and that's with Tenacious Theatrics. Also virtual.
Right. Great. Thank you, Justin. And then a question for everyone. Do you enjoy the horror genre? And if you do, recommendations of your favorite books, movies, graphic novels, TV shows, anything, any kind of media that one can consume. Anyone can jump in, or I'll start.
Yeah, why don't you start, Briel? You haven't gotten to talk about yourself.
Yeah, no, I talk about myself on every episode.
Right.
I've answered this question in different ways, but we were talking right before we started, and actually, I love, like, supernatural sort of fiction. So I was speaking of What We Do in the Shadows, which I guess if we could consider horror genre, comedic horror genre. And I grew up, like, loving Buffy the Vampire Slayer and I like True Love. If anything with witches or vampires or, like, supernatural things, I'm down for. So supernatural horror.
I think I would have to say, for me, horror, I don't really seek horror out. I'm not a huge fan of blood, so I don't mind being scared, but I don't want to be grossed out. So I don't know. So the last horror thing I read or watched was FantasticLand. So, and I can't even tell you before that what horror thing I may have watched or seen or read. So I think that's kind of it. And doing FantasticLand, I don't know. I think maybe this is probably true for everybody. I mean, when you're doing it, it doesn't seem like your character is like, oh my God, I'm in a horror thing. Your character is just a person doing the things they're doing, right? So,
right.
For me, I also don't really. I'm not a big horror person. I love campy horror. I like stuff that is, like, so bad it's good.
Yeah.
I was talking about
Me
that
too.
last episode.
Yeah.
Like, The Omen is my favorite example of that, where it's, like, so fake that you have to laugh at it.
Yeah, like, well, but at the same time, I prefer it when it's intentional. Like, my favorite director is Sam Raimi, so I love the Evil Dead movies. I just think they're, like, so.
Oh yeah.
As they go on, the third one's just so funny and ridiculous. I just love that. I also watch American Horror Story. But I don't know, like compared to like when I watched the first season versus whatever season I'm on now, like I'm getting older. So now like when I watch it, like it's not as like, oh, that was such a cool death. It's like, oh, that would hurt. Like, oh my gosh, my life is so short. Like, just they're having like an existential crisis. Like I don't enjoy it like I used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll just have to third what David and Justin said. I'm not super into horror, but I do like well-made like psychological thrillers, or just like things that at the end, like I'm still thinking about it. I guess the most recent thing that I watched that I really ended up enjoying, even though it really spooked me, was The Haunting of Hill House. I just thought that like the storytelling was exceptional, and the cinematography was exceptional also. And I don't usually read horror, but I just started the audiobook of The Only Good Indians. I forgot the author's name, but it's supposed to be like a horror novel. It's very well awarded and critically acclaimed. And then I also a little while ago read Carrie by Stephen King, and I actually liked it. I thought it was better than the musical. So
not saying much, but
right. Yeah.
But have you ever seen the film of Carrie?
I actually have not seen either of them. I know that there's like an older one and there's like a newer one. I haven't seen either, but yeah.
Stephen Graham Jones is the author of the book you're speaking about.
Stephen Graham Jones. Thank you. Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
All right. Well, from our panel, any questions for each other before we shift to the next thing?
I can't really ask Justin anything because I haven't seen the episode yet, so I can't ask anything about that. So
I've seen all of them. I've binged them all.
I've been holding off because I wanted to have the experience of watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If people out there have not seen any of it, you can still buy it. You can binge watch it now because the last 2 episodes are coming out this week. Well, we will get to, but it is very bingeable. I'll just say that. All right. So it seems like we don't have any audience questions yet. Maybe they'll be percolating. So we'll shift to our trivia section and then maybe come back to some audience questions if any come up. So you played this, Allie. I'm going to give you four questions, and I'm going to give you multiple choice, A, B, or C. And you guys can have the same answer. It doesn't have to be different. You could all say A or all say B or whatever. And then whoever has the most points, most right answers, will win a special prize that we will get to. And I also will give you a little trivia about those questions. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Great. First question. Justin's character, Travis Barnes, is a member of Florida's National Guard. What is the U.S. National Guard's motto? A, honor, passion. B, always ready, always there. Or C, sure and steadfast. Just shout it out when you know, or have a thought.
I'm going to go with B. Yeah.
B?
Same. Yeah.
Everyone's going with B? All right. Well, you are all correct. It is always ready, always there. The title of National Guard was first used in 1824 by New York militia units in honor of Marquis de Lafayette, who led the French National Guard. The National Guard, as we know it today, began in 1933. So that's everybody. Okay, second question.
The Lafayette of Hamilton? Lafayette?
Yes, Marquis de Lafayette. I also grew up in Lafayette, California. So,
that's where Town Hall is.
Which is where Town Hall is. It's my hometown theater, baby. I went to middle school down the street.
Yes.
And yes, so Town Hall.
I grew up in Louisiana, so that's
yes, the other Lafayette. I think there's 3 Lafayettes. I think there's just like a Lafayette.
I think there's like 5. Yeah.
There's a lot. There's a lot, but that connects the stuff in. The Lafayette connection.
The start of a wonderful friendship.
All right. So second question. David's character, lead prosecutor Emmett Kelly, has the complex job of sorting through all of FantasticLand's unreliable witnesses and holding the guilty accountable. Taylor Swift's lawyer was probably having an easier time dealing with theme park legal matters when the singer was sued by which attraction for trademark infringement. So the question is, what theme park attraction from what park sued Taylor Swift for what is it called? Trademark infringement. Okay. A, Evermore Park in Pleasant Grove, Utah. B, Henderson Castle in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Or C, Folklore Gardens in Georgetown County, South Carolina.
Briel, what are the choices again? Could you repeat those?
Yes. A, Evermore Park in Pleasant Grove, Utah. B, Henderson Castle in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Or C, Folklore Gardens in Georgetown County, South Carolina.
I'm going to go with A.
I'm going with C.
I'm going with A.
Okay, and David, what was it? Okay, so Allie and David, you are correct. It is Evermore Park in Pleasant Grove, Utah. Evermore Park is described as an immersive Renaissance fair type experience. On February 2nd, 2021, Evermore Park filed a lawsuit claiming that Taylor Swift's December album release, Evermore, and its merchandise infringed on the attraction's trademark. Taylor Swift countersued, but both parties have since dropped their lawsuit. But so we have a pic of Evermore Park. There we go. Okay. And then also, Michelle included, of course, Henderson Castle because of you, Allie.
Yeah.
Where you went to college, Kalamazoo.
Mm-hmm. That's nice. So. And I was like, well, Henderson Castle is it's like it's got a restaurant and it's like a hotel. So I was like, and it's kind of like very a private kind of thing. So I was like, I don't think they would take up arms with Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
they're very small.
Yeah. All right. So next question. In episode 10, we'll meet the man everyone in FantasticLand has been talking about, Brock Hockney. Mm-hmm. I like to call him Brockney. Played by Anders Finnholt. That's how you say his name, right? Anders?
Yeah.
Anders Finnholt. What other infamous characters tops USA Today's list of the 50 most popular movie villains? That's the question. What other infamous character tops USA Today's list of the 50 most popular movie villains? So A, Hannibal Lecter. B, Hans Gruber. Or C, Darth Vader?
That's a good question. I'll go with C. I feel like he's the most popular.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with Hannibal Lecter. I'm going with A.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
All right. Allie and Justin, you are correct. It is Darth Vader or Dark Father, from, of course, we know, Star Wars. Darth Vader and the Joker consistently top multiple villains lists as number 1 and number 2. Other contenders in the top 10 are Hannibal Lecter, the shark from Jaws, Thanos, Sauron from Lord of the Rings, and Pennywise the Clown, which to me is the most frightening. Clowns are absolutely frightening to me. All right, last question. And I believe, I guess Allie would be in the lead here. Which roller coaster known as one of the world's craziest roller coasters starts with an inward drop at 121 degrees, speeds through a long pitch black tunnel, and then launches into corkscrews, banana rolls, and 180-degree turns?
Wait, I think I know this.
A, the Takabisha in Japan, B, Montu in Tampa Bay, Florida, or C, Bizarro in Six Flags, Agawam, Massachusetts?
Just kidding. I didn't. No.
I hate roller coasters, so this is also a nightmare of mine. So do you want me to repeat those, or do you guys have them?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
okay.
That'd be helpful.
Okay. A, the Takabisha in Japan, B, Montu in Tampa Bay, Florida, or C, Bizarro, Six Flags in Agawam, Massachusetts?
I'll go with A.
Okay.
I'll try B.
Okay.
I'm torn between B and C, but since Justin took B, maybe I'm gonna go with C.
We're all spread out. Somebody's gonna be right.
Okay. The answer is A, the Takabisha in Japan. The Takabisha is located at Fuji-Q Highland Theme Park in Japan, and the name translates to high-handed or domineering. It held the title of world's steepest roller coaster from 2011 to 2019. And we have a picture we're going to throw up.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
That looks
in the clouds.
That looks scary.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, thank you. No, thank you. All right. So Allie is our winner of the Sam Garlick Excellence in Leadership Award. Congratulations to Mazel Tov. That is a graphic made by George March using some of our other marketing materials. And thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
It doesn't seem like we have any audience questions tonight. So I guess we'll move right ahead. Before we wrap up, I want to shift the focus to you, Allie, one more time as our director, as our editor, and as we near our final episodes. Do you have any final words?
Yeah, I would just say that, I'm just counting in my head. I feel like almost 40 or more people dedicated a lot of their time to this production. And I just wanted to thank everyone, David, Briel, Justin, all of the actors, all of the production team, everyone that did something. Obviously, Michelle Iannaro, Mike Bakoven, Dennis from Town Hall, everyone who had, and Diana. This is not an Oscar speech. I'm not going to thank everybody. But it wouldn't have turned out as good as it did if not for all of the people that really dedicated their time and decided that this production was worthwhile. And so I just really appreciate everybody that worked hard on this. And I want to encourage everybody watching, if you haven't watched anything yet, get your passes, watch it. If you're still catching up or if you've been following along every week, thank you too for doing that. But it's worth your time to watch. And yeah, that's all I have to say, because everyone did all of, that great work for it.
Yes. Thank you, Allie. And we were so glad to have you on board. I mean, I think we all had really wonderful experiences working with you, and got to love that one-on-one experience, but also your vision, and got to do this really unique thing that you had a big part of. So I want to thank all of our audience out there, anyone who's going to watch this later. Thank you for joining us for this last episode of Before the Storm. And especially those who've tuned in every week. I know some friends have been watching every week, which is so great. It's that beautiful thing right before the episodes, get you into it. Our next installment for our theatrical series will be episode 9, which will be released tomorrow, Tuesday, April 6th. And episode 10, our last and final episode, will be released on Wednesday, April 7th. And for more information, or to get your pass, if you have not yet, go to www.townhalltheater.com/FantasticLand. And I want to thank my guests, Alysia, Ali, Homminga. I know we do both, so we'll say both. And David Richardson and Justin Hanks and all of our volunteers that have made this possible. And a big, big thank you and shout out to Michelle Hosselton, who has been our stage manager throughout this, but also our coordinator of Before the Storm. And she fields the questions and is technical support, and she does a million things. So a huge thank you to you. Again, I'm Briel Pomerantz, and I hope you've enjoyed tonight's episode of FantasticLand. And stay tuned for a promo for next time on FantasticLand. See you later.
After that, I turn the camera on. I'll walk you through the video.
There's a video of 2 masks that look like the ones worn by the warthogs on the grounds near the entrance.
I have no idea if those are the masks or not, but I can tell you, I talked to a couple of folks who went into the hotel right across the way from the entrance, and they told me they had seen some shit.
I interviewed Brock Hockney at the Big Pine Key Road Correctional Facility, where he will likely spend the rest of his life.
You've proven yourself capable of manners, Ms. Jakes. Don't go blowing it now. Freeing these men and women of their fear was as much an act of mercy as putting that poor dying man out of his misery.